it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in today on a great viewer question. And that is, how do you know if you are being targeted by someone who you feel is psychopathic? You are having some questions, you're having some doubts, and you need to just bounce it off of somebody. So here we go. We're going to zoom in and focus in on that topic. And before we get started, I did have a question. Someone was wondering what lipstick I have on. It is a Clinique lipstick. I'm not quite sure. I can't quite read the name. I will have to get back to you on that. They write things so small, and I may need new glasses, so I apologize, but the brand is Clinique. So I'll go check them out. But we're going to zoom in and focus in and get started a little bit more in depth on how can you tell if you're really being targeted and manipulated by someone who is psychopathic. It is to understand that this person they need others to survive. They need to lean on and incorporate others in their really sort of their moving parts as they make their way through relationships, through workplaces, through families. So it is to understand, first and foremost, that they are different from the majority. Meaning that it's thought to be 4% of individuals are psychopathic. And so that means that there's 96% of people that have a heart, that have love, that have feelings, emotions, they experience fear, and they are basically going to abide by the norms of society. They have a sense of morality, right or wrong. They have a sense of value. They have a sense of brotherhood or sisterhood. They connect with others, or they connect with higher values. They're able to, integrate those in their daily life. Now, a psychopath is wired differently. In other words, the way that their amygdala works, the way that they're hypersensitive to dopamine, the reward chemical, the way that their brain hemispheres connect are in a different manner or fashion than the rest of society. So this enables them to shut down basically the judgment center and the emotional center, where they have a different sort of semantic meaning. The meaning of words and visions are processed differently. So they process things differently, and they don't experience things like fear or guilt or morality, right or wrong, and that is usually presented or experienced by societal norms. In other words, no, it would be wrong to steal that information. No, it would be wrong to do that, with the files. No, it would be wrong to neglect your kids. No, it would be wrong to live as a parasite. So these are just small examples of what societal norms are. And, we have the need to belong. But see, these people have an insatiable need for power and control. So there's just like regular people, they have certain intellects, they have, certain intelligence, certain drives, and they have different things that they're going to do with this disorder, this antisocial aspect of them. And we're not diagnosing or treating people here. We are speaking in generalities, so you can at least check and resonate within yourself as a sounding board here to see if this is what you're experiencing. So, or if you feel you have been targeted. And that also begs the question for you to understand that the reason why most people get targeted or, learn the hard way after being perhaps manipulated or victimized or cheated on in these ways is because you have hitherto not known that there were these types of people in the world before. In other words, people who are empty of emotion, people who project a persona or a mask, and it's not really them or their dreams, it's what they do to get by. In other words, to trick, deceive, and conceal. So they're very deceitful, meaning they're trickery, they're tricking people. And that is what they do all the time. So And it's to understand that hitherto you did not know these people existed. So that's part of it. A lot of people can't wrap their head around that. So it is to know that this person oftentimes is very smooth, charismatic, charming, and you feel almost like it's too good to be true too quickly, that this person all of a sudden you feel very comfortable, and perhaps maybe they're sharing some things with you that most people wouldn't share with right away. So if these are some little red flags or indicators where you go, wow, like that person is so nice. So in other words, they might have asked for your phone number and called you right away. Or they might have shared something very sentimental about themselves or their life. And all of a sudden, they pushed your buttons and your heart was won over to them. You had a sense they might have told you some sort of, sad story that their wife left them or this and this. And so all of a sudden you feel this sort of sympathy for them or your empathy. It's really like they're button pushing. They're scoping you out to see what buttons to push, where you are needed, where you felt lonely. All of a sudden you're treated like the man that you want to be or the woman that you want to be. They might be sharing some other information where you say, wow, this person is so different. So that like kind of aha moment that you might even say to them, I feel so relaxed around you. I feel so secure. There's something so different about you. And then you begin to kind of think things differently. All of a sudden you feel like perhaps, you're noticing certain things that they do or say are really different, and you might find this very humorous, or you feel you're in the love bombing stage where you feel like you're on cloud 79 with this person and you're just euphoric. So this is very typical of the early stages, but also is that these people tend to then to get into your life. In other words, if they have decided that this would be a good person to align themselves with or to get something from, it's an intellectual decision. As a viewer so aptly stated, they intellectualize their emotions, so they don't feel it, they mimic it. So in other words, they will see, oh, well, a good couple, I see these people holding hands, he's giving her chocolates, they're going by the bench, he's taking her to dinner. They see that and then mimic that. So they don't feel like that they're really, going to go along that romantic path. They just behave it intellectually. So it's like a muscle memory, as a psychopathic individual viewer had replied. It's like a muscle memory. It's just like something they have learned to do. They don't feel it, but it's something that they do to fit in. But another indicator is that they're going to perhaps give you something or show you something that normally you would not see. Like they're going to show you their credit cards, or their social security number or their resume to, disclose of themselves. So it's to create this sort of feeling of trust where it's just like, I've laid everything out, like, or they might show you something really personal, private information that, you're like, you should not be showing that to me. So if you can kind of check through that, and then it's to know that then if this person is then subtly trying to be in your life like 24/7 right away. And, there's a lot of people who are on the hookup scene, the hookup culture nowadays. Pretty crazy if you ask me, all that goes on with the spring breaks and the swipe right or whatever it is, Tinder, and then you've got this whole hookup culture. So if you're in that, you should pretty much understand that you're not going to get the real thing through that route. It's just disgusting if you ask me, but we're not here about my opinion. We are here to talk about how do you know if you're really sort of being targeted by somebody who perhaps could be trying to drain you or take advantage of, or really deceive, be very duplicitous and have a lot of deception about them, and then how it's going to influence or impact or harm your life. So, and then, if you feel that this person perhaps is very, very calm, in the state of things that normally someone would be rattled by or fearful of or horrified by, that they're more just sort of absorbed in it. They, or something that happened in their life and they're just not flinching or flailing, that they're just super calm. So this is a good indicator that you've now acknowledged within this person that they're not behaving in normal ways and they're really, really calm and very well self-composed There's never a hair out of place. Everything is just always perfect, and you can perhaps be really feel that you're very secure around this person because they don't seem to react fearfully or around things that normally people would get anxious over. So you can find there's a sort of unique quality about them. Or like when suddenly you get along and you're finding that this is repeating other relationships that you've been through in the past. If you're like, we're getting together here, this means, I feel that there's a similar pattern from my previous relationships. You're this type of person and this is going to happen. So you could have had this feeling of like, I can predict the outcome before I even seen it. So you had like an instinctual gut reaction that this person was a little bit different, like they had eyes in the back of their head, like that they're just sort of looking at things. They look at things differently. They look at opportunities, relationships, families, strictly as a parasitic way. And this goes as in-depth to marriage. It is a marriage, a means to an end. So, but in understanding this person will, and also have a high degree of energy to do a lot of things. So if you feel that in the beginning there was a match for you, but then they begin to engage in a lot of sort of crossing of boundaries within you. They're doing things where normally you're like, that's too crazy. We should not do that. But to appease the relationship, you might feel that there's, a lot of boundaries being violated, or that you're thrown off kilter through your routine, and they constantly want you to be thinking about them, and then you begin to make a lot of your decisions on the we rather than yourself, and it takes you into a feeling where you're getting too exhausted or something of that nature. And then also to feel that when you're completely, then paranoid, when certain things that should be expected in the relationship after a specific period of time aren't met, and you feel that there's something being hidden, and they make excuses, that it's just false promises that don't ever get made. You can understand this, that you're not getting what you want out of the relationship, or if you feel that there's something, the way that they're communicating has caused you to think a little bit differently. And it's definitely recommended, like Sandra Brown's book, in Healing Through Psychopathic Relationships, especially ones that were close or romantic, is that, you don't want to think like them because they think in a different language pattern and they perceive things in a different way. So if you felt that sort of your thought patterns were a little bit different, or you were beginning to see things differently because of their influence in your life, not in a positive way, but usually in a hyper-aroused or over-sexualized way, where you felt that maybe you were out of control because there's this hyper-arousal, and then eventually you begin seeing things differently, and then you begin to, have a sense of enigmatic speech, meaning it's very puzzling or mysterious, and the feeling that, you're kind of like now an investigator. They might be doing some strange things, like taking pieces of your clothing or leaving things places for you to attend to, like receipts out, or strange carvings in the wall, like writing on the wall, or doing some really sort of covert things, moving furniture around, or making their body in shapes that sort of cause you to question them, themselves positioning themselves like physically like an object to attract your attention, and then, betraying your weaknesses, and exploiting weaknesses like jealousy, envy, desire for commitment, exploiting those within you. So then you become jealous, paranoid, and then you're, now on a rat trace trying to figure things out. You've become like an investigator, and you're still following the path because this person is kind of laughing at you because they know that you're just following along this trap that they have set for you. It's very pre-calculated and predetermined. They already know what they're going to do before you do. So that's what's so sad. And then the exposure, where eventually, you find out that it's all a sham, a fraud, that it's all an illusion, and there's no content there. There's no substance. So if you felt there's no emotional substance or connection there, then you can perhaps make a decision. Even if you don't put a label on the relationship, it's okay to move on. It's okay. There will be other people for you. And it's okay to be alone, independent, autonomous. It might be scary for you, but don't feel that you always have to rush into a new relationship on a rebound. Be confident and just go no contact, and just, bow out. They oftentimes don't perceive the people who they scope out as strong. It's just like they're kind of go after people who have a weakness or a need there, and who they're going to, take on. I mean, and begin to get educated if you want to invest your time. But if you've been able to answer that some of these don't feel right for you, be okay to trust your gut. It's okay, even if you've kind of ignored your gut for a while, if it's been a couple weeks, a couple months, a couple years, who knows? The more in depth, the more difficult, the more time you've spent, the more difficult it is going to be for you to separate and feel like, have a quote unquote normal relationship that isn't so high pressure, addictive, overstimulating, over arousing. You're not engaging in these high risk behaviors or wondering, and give yourself a chance to, break through. And it might be difficult if a lot of people tend, because of this connection, if you feel that you're having dreams or nightmares or ruminations or flashbacks, this can be a sign that you're in an overly traumatizing relationship. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.